wanting that they be seen as equals in every respect. They don't want to be seen as lacking in anything. Leave alone about seeing them as inferior. That is blasphemy in today's age and time. Whereas when we read from the scriptures, sometimes these kind of statements and these kind of aspects are mentioned, which becomes very controversial in this age and time. Like here openly the Bhagavatam verse is saying that in a very loose way. It is interpreted as a loose way, not that it is loose way, but when we read it literally, it could be interpreted that Bhagavatam is speaking very loosely about a particular section of society and especially women, wherein here it is being said that they should be treated as very merciful, like their children. Children will do so many things. We don't take them seriously, right? Children will commit so many mistakes. So Bhagavatam is saying that women also has to be treated like that. We must not take it so seriously. So in today's age and time, if we speak like this, it will definitely be considered blasphemy. Not only blasphemy, it can be considered very criminal also, or it is an offense. You are degrading somebody. So all these kind of connotations can be added to that. Actually, we should understand, to understand these aspects that is there in the scriptures, we must also understand that society of those times. What kind of a society existed? Today, what kind of a society exists? In today's society, if you see, the core objective of either a man, woman, anybody, there is only one objective, which is exploitation to satisfy one's senses. That is the core objective. How I can satisfy my senses. That is the objective of the man, that is the objective of the woman, that is the objective of every caste, creed, religion. How I can exploit to enjoy my senses. That is the core objective. So in modern society, when they see a woman, the immediate objective is that I want to enjoy her. I want to enjoy that womanly aspect. Because women has some very nice quality, which is given by God. Prabhupada constantly says, women are Vama Svabhava, very gentle. You see, women's voice is much softer than a man. The women's actions, they are more gentle. So when a man interacts with another man, he cannot exploit another man, because the other man is also equally strong. If he talks loudly, the other man also will talk loudly. So he has got limitations. Whereas with a woman, she's far more gentle, she's far more pleasing in her demeanor. So then he wants to exploit. That is the mood of modern society. And with that keeping in mind to exploit, what he does, he uses the Vedic thinking of women. Hey, you're inferior. He uses that inferior status to exploit the women. And that is why women in modern society do not want to accept that they are inferior. And it is right of women to accept that they are not inferior, because they know this man's objective is to exploit me. Obviously, nobody should allow themselves to be exploited by anybody else. We are only servants of Krishna, or we are servants of Krishna, we are servants of Krishna. Otherwise, we are not for anybody else's sensual pleasure. Jai Shri Radha Krishna Chandra Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai. Man or woman, so they object that you cannot do this, because by calling them inferior and using the Shastra, they try to minimize the women's position. For what? The purpose is to exploit the women for his pleasure. No way. You cannot, as per Vedic laws, as per the injunctions of the scriptures, you can never exploit another living entity for your pleasure. You are violating the basic essence. The basic principle is that you are always, jivere swarupohi nityara Krishnadas. Your position is to serve Krishna, not exploit something of Krishna. So when your objective becomes exploitation, then the secondary aspect of a woman being inferior, everything is lost, completely lost there. Because your primary objective is, you are an exploiter. Whereas in a Vedic society, they recognized the status, the position of every living entity, and still utilized and related to those living entities with only one objective, which is how I can relate to everybody as Amsha of the Supreme Lord. That is the purpose. Man, woman, Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, doesn't matter. Everybody are Amsha of the Supreme Lord, and their material abilities, their material situation is like this. But irrespective of their material credentials, the objective was to relate to them as part and parcel of Krishna. So the higher objective is there, that Every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. And then to relate with them, I have to relate to them like this, because this is their nature, this is their ability, this is their state of existence. So in Vedic society, these kind of statements doesn't mean that women are, like for example, in modern society, when women hear this kind of statement, immediately the thought process is that, oh, Vedic society, they are calling women inferior, they are calling them less intelligent, which means that it must just be such a exploitative society, it must be. That is the understanding that they will get. Because they are thinking like this, because that is the situation that is currently prevalent. The current reality is, yes, women are exploited when they are seen as inferior, when they are seen as less intelligent. When somebody tells like that, you clearly know this man's objective is to somehow shoshan karna. Whereas the objective in Vedic society is completely different. They see reality, but that reality is to be utilized there are principles of how that reality has to be utilized. That is why here, so nicely, Shukadev Goswami is bringing out this point. Diti, she is praying to Shiva. And she is telling, what is she telling to Shiva? What is she telling about Shiva? He is saying that Shiva knows we are women, we make mistakes, but at the same time, Shiva is very merciful. So you see, Shiva knows the position of women, Shiva knows the weaknesses of women, yet Shiva is very, very merciful of women. Shiva is not exploitative. Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Of all the Vaishnavas, the greatest Vaishnava is Shambhu. So, a Vaishnava's quality, what is the Vaishnava's quality? Vaishnava quality is, Vaishnava is always Paradukka Dukhi. Irrespective of their material position, a Vaishnava is always compassionate, merciful towards all living entities. So pure devotees are like that. You can see the examples of pure devotees. Like here, there is a specific example of Lord Shiva being mentioned. But you can see example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. The incarnation of Mahaprabhu is mercy incarnation. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. We make the prayer for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Namo Maha, offering obeisances we say. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhyo hevacha. Sindubhyo hevacha. What is the sindubhyo hevacha? Ocean of mercy. A Vaishnava is ocean of mercy. So, if you are violating the principle of compassion, of mercy, and then pointing out religion, saying that women are inferior, obviously women have every right to say that we are equal. Don't do all these kind of things. Otherwise, you will be exploited. Somebody who is talking Vedic principle will never degrade, insult a woman like that. You can see Srila Prabhupada. I gave the example of Mahaprabhu. Of course, Mahaprabhu is Sakshat Lord. Even Jiva, a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, he is an empowered Acharya. You cannot call him just ordinary Jiva. Krishna's special Shakti is there. How Prabhupada treated. Prabhupada knows. Do you think it's the same Prabhupada who has written all these books? Yet Prabhupada worked, Prabhupada engaged. How many thousands of women are doing service in his organization and doing wonderful service from the very beginning. Prabhupada didn't tell that you cannot do this, you cannot do that. No. Prabhupada made pujaris of women. What to speak of something else. So many temples in the West. Prabhupada engaged them. Because Prabhupada saw that they are Krishna's Amsha. But at the same time, Prabhupada was not foolish not to see the reality also. That is the quality. Being Mayavadis are not like that. Mayavadi philosophy, Mayavadis generally are very dry philosophers. And being dry philosophers, they cannot perceive higher realities. Mayavadis, Tattvavadis, all these people are very, very rigid. But an empowered pure devotee is not like that. He knows Shastra. He will not go against the Shastra. But he knows the real meaning of Shastra. The purpose of Shastra. That's why Prabhupada is always giving. He says the translation and then he says purport. Purport means what? Purport means the purpose of this. Purpose of this revelation. So Vaishnava he has to abide by the principles, and without violating the principles, he can establish various other dimensions to that same principle. Like we say, he abides by the letter and spirit of Shastra. The spirit is not compromised. No way. Whatever was the purpose of saying something in Shastra, that has to be abided. Great examples are there. Vaishnava's qualities, lot of examples are there. Very merciful, very key element of Vaishnava. Just like you can see Prahlad Maharaj. His own father tried to kill him umpteen number of times. Limitless number of times. Prahlad was tortured in different ways. But yet, Prahlad was, even when after killing of Prahlad, Narsimha Dev asked Prahlad, what is your wish? Prahlad said, please ensure that my father is liberated. So he is asking a boon for a father who tortured him from the very beginning of his life. So much merciful. He doesn't take offense. Ambarish Maharaj, he was attacked by Durvasa for no fault of his. Yet Ambarish Maharaj did not hit back. Great quality. So this merciful nature of Lord Shiva is being emphasized here by Diti. Lord Shiva can get angry very easily. At the same time, he can be very merciful, very easily pacified also. Okay, he got angry, but suddenly he got angry, then somebody came and told, okay, leave it. That is the nature of Lord Shiva. Such a wonderful quality to possess. We see sometimes when somebody does any mistake, some violation, we get angry. Then we leave it. What can be done after some time? As though nothing has happened, everything is normal. That's how Vaishnavas should behave. We must not have any grudge. Never should a Vaishnava have any grudge in their heart. No matter how much somebody has hurt you, somebody has harmed you, or you feel hurt. Actually, nobody has harmed. Everything is happening by the will of the Lord. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you can understand this so-called understanding that somebody has hurt me, somebody has given me pain. It's a wrong thing to understand, because we must always understand everything is happening by the will of the Lord. Nothing happens without the will of the Lord. So if somebody has hurt you, that means Krishna has willed you for that to happen. So why should I get upset from that? We should not be upset by that. It happened by the will of the Lord. Krishna has sanctioned it to happen. If Krishna didn't want that, would that person be able to do that? No. So why should I blame that person? So when our Krishna conscious path, we must always remember that nobody, he is not the cause of that. He is not the cause. So why should I maintain some anger? No. Very bad. If we are maintaining grudge, if we are not able to see another, especially in devotee committee, another devotee face, we get irritated, we get angry when we talk to him, see to him. That is not a very healthy situation at all. Slowly, that is very karmic thinking. Our spiritual practices will become very weak. We will not be able to chant properly. Within our mind, we will be constantly chewing what should be thrown out. What will happen if you retain in your mouth after you eat food? We should nightly gargle our mouth and if possible even brush and throw out all the things from the mouth. But supposing if you don't do that and if you keep on retaining the same dirt in your mouth, what will happen? What you have left out, what food particles you have left out, that will start creating pus in your mouth. That will start decaying in your mouth. Similarly, ill feelings, bad feelings, something happened, okay, it happened. If you keep on retaining that thing, you will decay. You will decay. In your mind, you will not be able to do. you'll always be thinking that aspect, that fellow told me like this, that fellow did like this fellow did like this. Rather, okay, it happened, just throw it out. That is the end. If that fellow has done something wrong to you, Krishna is there. Let him decide what he has to do. Why that person did, he has his own reasons. Why we should try to get into all those things? This is a Vaishnava. This is the way in which a Vaishnava thinks, acts. This is our culture. This is devotees thinking. Not being vengeful. Keeping anger within one's heart. Very damaging. It will damage us. It will damage our devotional life. No matter what, we must be able to speak freely to everybody, as though nothing has happened. No matter what the situation was, how we reacted, how he acted against us, no. None of those things should come in between our relationship. That is a devotee's life. If we maintain that kind of a life, ashram will be, that is Goloka atmosphere. There is no any ill feelings between each other. If you start seeing bad between each other, there is no end to it. In common interaction, when we are living together, there is bound to happen. Frictions are bound to happen. Differences are bound to come. Various things will come. Oh, I said this one. Some people are like that. I have seen many people. Prabhu, in the year 2001, you told me like this. Arey, who knows, yaar? 10 years back, you acted like this. Why we have to talk? We must not. So, you see, that is the quality of a Vaishnava. He never takes any of it. Doesn't matter. Every one of us, all of us have to practice this. Then we'll have sauharda. Nice, good feelings amongst each other. If we start trying to see every time, oh, this devotee is not behaving properly, he is not acting like this, very neophyte behavior. Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Leela, it talks about what are the qualities of a devotee. In which first quality it talks about the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, it says, Sei Sabha Gunahaya Vaishnava Lakshana Sabakaha Nayaya Karidrig Darshana. A pure devotee is magnanimous and an inspiration to one and all. It is only by great fortune that one gets to associate with him. In fact, even a moment's association with a pure devotee of the Lord is all purifying, and it is only by his causeless mercy that one becomes eligible to engage in the service of the Supreme Lord. So, that one of the qualities is kind. He is very kind. Kripalu, compassionate, karuna, and works for the welfare of everyone. Sarva upakaraka. A Vaishnava devotee is always merciful and a well-wishing friend of not only humans but all living beings. A devotee is always concerned with the suffering condition of the living entities entrapped in material existence. he always tries to devise ways and means to relieve them from their suffering. When Namacharya Haridas Thakur was asked as to why one should chant the Lord's holy names loudly, he replied that when one chants silently, only he receives the benefit, whereas when chants loudly, everyone around him, even the animals and plants, are benefited from associating with the Lord's holy names. Again, when Haridas Thakura was being, see how the consciousness of a person like Haridas Thakur, when somebody asks us why we should chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra loudly, what is our first explanation? Generally we give what? No, your ears should be able to hear what your mouth is saying. Both senses should work, your ears as well as your talk. Sankirtana. Japa. Japa means chanting and hearing. We say like this. But you see how Haridas Thakur is explaining how you should, why, when Haridas Thakur was asked why you should chant, what did Haridas Thakur say? No, he never said anything like this. His explanation was, I chant loudly because if I chant myself, then the benefit is only for me. Whereas if I chant loudly, the benefit is for all the animals and plants. That's why I chant loudly. You see, that is conscious. That is paradukka dukhi. He is really living that consciousness. He is not thinking, well, yes, chanting, hearing and listening is the technical correct answer. That is technically correct. But not having spiritual dimension to that answer. Haridas Thakur is saying, no, I chant loudly basically because I want everybody else also to be benefited. See, what is the level of consciousness there? Again, when Haridas Thakur was being dragged and beaten across 22 marketplaces in Puglia, he kept incessantly praying to the Supreme Lord and begged him to forgive these demoniac guards who were beating him like animals. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later revealed during Mahaprakash Leela that if Haridas Thakur had not then prayed, the Lord would have severed the head of those miscreants. Next quality is humble. 27 qualities are described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. 26 qualities. So in that, the first is compassion, mercy. Second is humble. He does not quarrel. Akrita droha, and without false prestige, amani. Pure devotees of the Lord lives by the instructions given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Trinadapi sunichena taro rapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadaharihi. Which means that one should chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, and be tolerant and be more tolerant than even a tree. One should be devoid of all sense of false prestige and be ready to offer all respect unto others. When the famous Digvijayi scholar Rupa Narayan challenged Srila Rupa Goswami wanting to debate the scriptures with him, Sri Rupa didn't want to waste his time arguing with such a mundane scholar. Instead, he readily accepted defeat and signed his Vijayapatra, certificate of victory. Rupa Narayan could not grasp Sri Rupa Goswami's exalted status, and neither could he understand that he had accepted defeat only out of utter humility. Jiva Goswami, however, was very upset seeing Rupa Narayan boast, and he accepted the challenge on Rupa Goswami's behalf. See, a devotee, when he is personally challenged, he accepts defeat. But another devotee, when he sees that the other devotee is being minimized, he takes up cudgels on his behalf. Jiva Goswami, however, was very accepted, and seeing Jiva Goswami subsequently debated and defeated Rupa Narayan, making him realize the elevated stature of Sri Rupa Gosai. Rupa Narayan then surrendered unto the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Sri Kashishwara Pandita was the personal servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. After Lord Govinda Dev had manifested in Vrindavana, Lord Chaitanya ordered Kashishwar to immediately go to Vrindavan and assist Sri Rupa in serving Sri Govinda Dev. This instruction was extremely painful for Sri Kashishwar Pandita to execute, who preferred to even give up his life than abandon the association of Gaura Hari. But please note the greatness of this exalted soul, who was ready to easily give up his life but not defy the orders of his master. His personal likings and desires were the least important when it came to execute the orders of the Lord. Thus, keeping a stone upon his heart, this great Vaishnava left for Vrindavana and spent the rest of his life serving the deities of Govinda Dev. He took along with him a small deity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which Mahaprabhu himself had gifted to him, that subsequently became known as Gaura Govinda. So you see the example, a devotee is willing to sacrifice. Kashishwar Pandit was associated personal servant of Mahaprabhu. And then when Govinda Dev manifested in Vrindavan, when Rupa Goswami got the deity of Govinda Dev, Rupa Goswami needed somebody to serve the deity. So at that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kashishwar Pandit, you please go. You please go to Vrindavan and serve the deity. Kashishwar Pandit was very reluctant because he was so happy he is personally associating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who will feel like going? He doesn't feel like going. But yet, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told you have to go, no argument, he simply left. Although he is not feeling well. So devotee is not driven by his own personal desire and likes. Sometimes we may have a desire, oh, I like to do this service. But situation is such that, no, you will have to do something else. That is devotee quality. It doesn't keep on anchoring that I want to be like this. I am serving in this place only. If somebody suddenly we ask them to go, no, I don't feel like going. This is not devotee lakshana. That's not what our Shastra is teaching us. Truthful. The third quality, truthful, satya. Truthful and steady. Satya, Sara and Sthira. Three qualities. Satya means truthful, Sara means steady, and Sthira means fixed. No matter how difficult the circumstances, a Vaishnava always finds ways and means to remember and serve his Supreme Master. His entire existence is geared only to satisfy and provide pleasure unto Sri Guru and Gauranga. Sanatan Goswami, example. Sanatan Goswami, in spite of his advanced age, made it a point to circumambulate the Govardhana hill daily. Though it was very difficult for him to undertake this parikrama physically, yet he did not relent. Feeling compassionate, the Supreme Lord gave him his darshana and gifted him a small Govardhan Shila with his lotus footprint engraved upon it. On request of the Lord, Sri Sanatana Goswami used to circumambulate this Govardhan Shila from then on. The Lord assured him that circumambulating this sacred stone was equivalent to doing Govardhan Parikrama. Similarly, one can cite the example of Namacharya Haridas Thakur, who in spite of being very old and physically unwell, continued to chant 3 lakh holy names of the Lord daily. Srila Haridas did not want to reduce the stipulated number of rounds that he chanted under any circumstances. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, in spite of failing for 40 years in his life, he did not lose hope. Prabhupada failed 40 years in his life. Though he was greatly criticized by his own family members for having a spiritual interest, He did not give up his intense desire to serve the mission of his spiritual master. Whole family of Prabhupada was totally against him. And not only against him, personally also he failed miserably for 40 years, constantly failure. Failure after failure after failure. Prabhupada never gave up. See, that is the quality. Prabhupada was the aspect of Sara, steady, and Sthira, fixed. Srila Prabhupada, in the process, he had to abandon his wife, children, live without proper facilities, travel alone to the west on a cargo ship in which he suffered heart attacks. As a result of this, what is the result of this? As a result of this sacrifice, millions across the world today have the opportunity to lead a Krishna conscious life. It is Srila Prabhupada's tapasya, it is Srila Prabhupada's sacrifice that we are able to enjoy right now. If he would not have done that, where would have we got this opportunity to practice spiritual life? Sama, another quality of a devotee, is equal to everyone. He is Sama. A Vaishnava sees Sama in what way? He sees, I gave the example in the class, he sees everybody as Amsha of the Supreme Lord. He sees the same super soul in everybody's heart. The example for this is Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu flooded the streets of Bengal with Harinam. Premer Bhunyaloya Nitai, Aila Gauda Desha Dubilo Bhakta Jana Dina Hana Bashe. The waves of ecstasy washed one and all, irrespective of one's qualification or stature. Nityananda Prabhu delivered the mercantile community of Saptagram, who were considered fallen during those days. In fact, Sri Uddharana Datta Thakur, a prominent member of this community, became Nityananda Prabhu's personal cook. Fallen person, Nityananda Prabhu made him cook, personal cook. Similarly, Jaru Thakur had to be an exalted devotee, though he was a sweeper. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Sri Ramananda Raya, he was overwhelmed with ecstatic feelings. Sri Ramananda Raya belonged to a lower caste, while Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi. But Mahaprabhu didn't judge Ramananda on account of his background, but rather on his account of devotion. When Shyamananda Pandit met his spiritual master, Sri Hridaya Chaitanya did not reject him, though Shyamananda belonged to the lowly Sadgopa caste. Instead, he was overjoyed to accept a sincere and dedicated disciple as Shyamananda Pandita. Another quality of a devotee, faultless, nirdosha. A Vaishnava who in words and mind is completely surrendered to Krishna and executes Guru and Krishna's desire to the best of his ability is always faultless. You must see, anybody who is chanting Krishna's name, like for example, when we see devotees, if he is chanting Krishna's name, if he is able to come in the morning, attend Mangalarti, he is faultless. There is no fault. We should not see a fault in him. We cannot see fault in him. Magnanimous, vadanya, mild, mrudu, shanta, akinchana, without desire for any material possessions. Shanta, the quality of Shanta, very important. A Vaishnava is always peaceful, satisfied, and doesn't anchor for any material possession. When Lord Gaurari came to Bengal to visit Shachimata, he stopped over a few days at Srivas Pandita's house at Kumarahatta. Mahaprabhu was amazed to notice that Srivas Pandita did not go out to earn, but instead just sat and chanted in his house for the whole day. When Mahaprabhu asked Srivas Pandita as to how he maintained his family, Srivasa replied that by Mahaprabhu's mercy, he and his family members never suffer from any shortage. Srivas Pandita added that if ever in future the situation arose that there was no food in the house, then we would eat for 3 days. If even after 3 days the situation did not improve, then he would commit suicide by jumping into the Ganga. Quality of a devotee. He is dependent on the Lord. He's saying, I know if I chant nicely, whatever is required for me is Krishna will provide. And if it doesn't happen, it's okay. Let me die. Cleanliness, quality of a devotee. Desirelessness, self-control, free from lust, greed, anger, illusion, madness and envy. Krishnaika Sharanam, exclusively surrendered to Krishna. Another great quality of a devotee. Indifferent to material acquisition. Aniha, without inebriation. Apramatta, and without false prestige. Amani. Indifferent to material acquisition. Sri Pundarika Vidyanidhi was a great branch of Lord Chaitanya's desired tree of devotional service. He was so dear to the Lord that the Lord would sometimes cry in his absence. Yanra Namalana Prabhu Kandila Hapani. Pundarika hailed from a village known as Mekala, situated in Chattagram district of Bangladesh. He was a zamindar, landlord, and he disguised his external appearance as a wealthy materialist. In fact, his external appearance was so deceiving with all the rich paraphernalia he possessed that even Gadadhar Pandit mistook him to be an ordinary wealthy person devoid of Vaishnava qualities. When the two met, Pundarika was comfortably seated upon a soft mattress supporting his back with silk pillows. Above his head were 3 tiers of ornamented canopies, and there were large mirrors on either side into which he frequently glanced. Pundarika's hair was well groomed and they looked shiny and perfumed oil. They don't show. Even if they are devotee. What the example is that Pundarika Vidyanidhi is such a exalted devotee, but yet he was not showing that he is any devotee. I am a karmi. No show. No show. Absolutely no show. These are divine qualities. Meet a book. He does not eat more than required. Grave, Gambira, friend, Maitra, silent, Mauni, poet, Kavi. His language, devotee's language, very articulate, very good in his presentation, the way he speaks, the language, overflowing. You can see these qualities. Sometimes when you read Prabhupada's books, you can see, my God, so beautiful Prabhupada has written even in English. Just imagine in that age and time, in 1920s, Prabhupada has studied to write English like that at that time. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you cannot even understand to this day and time. So, the aspect of the qualities of Vaishnavas are so great that they are to be remembered and accepted and glorified. So, since at least Aditi is doing that, she is going to be temporarily at least being freed from our reactions to a wrong act. So we'll stop here. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.